Shalom, family. So, today we're going to talk about how many herbs you really need. And so, that number, of course, is going to vary by a lot of different variations or your needs per se. But you guys know me, I always like to break things down and give you actually more information than you were thinking that you needed so that you can make an informed decision when it comes to building your apothecary. So first, what is an apothecary? I always like to, give definitions. And so I consider an apothecary to be all the different herbs and spices, mostly dried herbs. I like whole herbs, but also things like your seeds are also in that apothecary. I also consider your herbal preparation. So you guys can't really see, but I have around my jars, I have all different types of bottles of different things as well. This extends my apothecary. So the basically, I would say going from a biblical definition, doing the work of a apothecary, they were talking mostly about like perfumes, oils, spices, those kind of things. And so when I think of I guess the modern day apothecary, it's basically all of the collection of the herbal remedies that you have. And so when you're thinking about your apothecary, what else is important other than just those spices or herbs and things that you have is also important to have things like capsules. If you purchase capsules or if you make your own capsules, the tinctures, the salves, the oils, all of those different things, think about that as your apothecary. And so I think that it's important for you to be able to have things already prepared, already made that you can just pull from. And that really would be more of your apothecary. So all of those things, all of those elements go into your apothecary. As you guys come in, go ahead and feel free to leave comments and questions if you have any, and I'll try to get to them. All right, so another asset or another thing you have to consider before you determine how many herbs you need per se is what is your level of expertise, and then also what's your actual goal, like how you want to function as an herbalist. So are you a family herbalist? Are you going to be a community herbalist? Are you going to be a clinical herbalist? So depending on that instance of where you choose what your specific path is going to lead you to that specific amount of herbs that you may need. So first, with a family herbalist, I think of this more as you as an herbalist really learning and using herbs primarily for those in your family, but mostly even more of your household, I would say. And so however many people are in your household, really just using herbal remedies and herbs, to support your, everyday life. Also, whenever you have ailments or those different things. And that's how I would say most people actually start is just using herbs for themselves, for those in their family, maybe even, grandma, auntie, other people in your extended family as well. And so when you are as a family herbalist, then, and depending on your level of expertise, will determine how many different herbs you have. Now, I count my kitchen herbs and spices as a part of my apothecary. But when you're thinking of how many herbs you need, I would say outside of those, it's going to vary basically, but I would say for the number of people you have in your household to at least maybe have about 3 different herbs for each person. And so the way that I determine that is by thinking about, okay, so what do I really feel like I need or I need to pull from herbs for? What are the things or, where are the gaps that I may have, nutritional gaps? Or what are the things that I go through, the things that I'm more prone to, and just choosing 3 herbs. And I think 3 herbs because it's simple, it's cost efficient, and you don't want to have a whole bunch of herbs in your apothecary and not really be using them or really have knowledge around them. So I think you should start small and then develop it over time. So piggying back on the last live stream that I did, where I explained the 4-step journey, starting with the kitchen herbs. That's really what you want to do. And then go maybe to those backyard herbs in the same way. So take the different people in your family and maybe do 3 to 4 different remedies for each of them. So, it will be different from person to person usually. But if you find that some of it overlaps, so let's say, that everybody in your family usually has that common cold or something like that. And you can decide then, okay, I have it covered here by this and this herb. So maybe then you can choose to do something else as well. So that's how I really would look at it as a family herbalist. If you want to be more of a community herbalist, that's where it's going to get you're going to need a little bit more, right? And so if you, the good thing about just being a community herbalist, you're working with your community, those around you, you're going through the seasons at the same time. And so pretty much you only have to have or be able to cover the different things that are going on just in that, quarterly period. And so it can be, you can choose just to make sure you have those seasonal kind of items, and that can get you through if you don't have as many herbs. But when you open up to the community, you'll find that you might need a couple more things. And so I just have like 3 different areas that I see where, depending on your level, what you'll be working with or what people will really be coming to you for. So one of those things is just about overall longevity of life and quality of life. So people are wanting to know, how can I improve my sleep? That's a big thing. How can I reduce, I'm stressed, or a big thing for people is wanting to have more energy. So things like that will be the things that you'll want to have in addition to those seasonal things that go on, depending on, like if it's wintertime, you may have certain things. If it's summertime, you have certain things that are going on. People are always going to want those kind of things. Another thing is first aid. So that's going to be something that's always important when someone needs something quickly. Things like, pain, dealing with wounds, things like that. And just for healing, people are always going to look for that. The last thing, and that would be more in a clinical herbalist kind of level, but looking at the more chronic issues. When you get into that, it's going to be much more, we're going to have a bigger apothecary. And I'm just going to wait until I get to that section. But I consider a community herbalist as someone who works with their community. So primarily when I, began working as a community herbalist, it really just morphed off of by mouth. So anybody that, knew me, that I gave something to, whenever they heard that someone was going through something, then they would just, recommend me. And it just kind of grew more that way. So it's really like, that organic kind of growth and just by word of mouth. And so, a friend of a friend or, your cousin lets their friend know, things like that. That's really how that community herbalist is. You're working with more people, more than just, maybe however many is in your household or, just family members. So you might go from, working with maybe 4 or 5 people to working with maybe to even 10 as a family herbalist. But when you get more to like, 20 different people and things like that, that's when I would say that you get to that level. All right. So when you're a community herbalist, some things that you want to consider. I talked about the seasonality. So just making sure that you have those different things covered based on the season that people are going through at any given time. The other thing you want to think about is, now that you're working with more people, making sure that you have remedies that are going to be, safe for our children, because that's going to be a big thing, especially, if you're a mother and other mothers are coming to you to know those remedies that can be used for children. And then also for, pregnant women or different things like that, because the list of those herbs are smaller. So you just want to make sure that you are aware of those, make sure you understand how to use herbs appropriately at that time if you decide to help those people, and knowing then also what herbs you can actually pull from. So you will have to have, I would say, even more than the 3 per person. You want to just make sure you can cover the seasonal issues and make sure you have extra remedies for, certain special categories of people. Women, children who look different from you, if you really want to have, maybe for elders, things like that, just having those remedies on hand. And as I talked about, those other categories about longevity, quality of life, people are interested in that, more first aid kits or, one-off things that someone may be dealing with. And then later on, when you become a clinical herbalist, I think of this as more as a person to where you're more open to the public. A lot of times now, clinical herbalists will be doing things digitally for people. And so when you went from the working with the seasons and being able to work with a smaller apothecary, now you pretty much need a larger apothecary, because you're going to deal with people on all different seasons and, their different climates and all of the different things that they're dealing with. You may even work with people internationally. So you're going to have all of those bases covered for all those different people. And then also you're going to need to have something for them as far as more chronic issues. So that's where I feel like once you go from the community herbalist to the clinical herbalist, you're dealing with people who have much more chronic issues. They're much more complex and different things like that. So your apothecary then will have more herbs, but also more books, resources, research that you'll need to be able to pull from, and then more knowledge as well. So with each of these layers, as your apothecary grows, your knowledge should also grow and keep up so that you can be able to help people with the various things that they're going through. So when we're thinking about chronic disease management and how many herbs you would need in your apothecary at that point, I believe that it's much more of having all of the organs and systems. So that's how I manage everything. And that's how everything that I teach is revolving around. So it's not just, the symptoms or the disease, the name of the disease that they're dealing with. I think more of the organs and systems as a whole. So you want to make sure you have all of the different bodily systems, organ systems covered. And so I always have a bunch of different freebies. I used to have one of an inventory checklist of different herbs. And so you can make one of these on your own, since I don't offer it anymore, but you can make one of these on your own, except for my students. I do give it to them. But you can make it, have all the different herbs there, and you can categorize them by the different organ systems. And so that's how you can keep a tally of how many of the different organs and systems you have specific herbs for. So again, as I said, you have to have more knowledge then. And so you would need to know the specific organ affinities of different herbs. So where the herbs have a stronger action on, or more of an affinity or perplexity to work on. So making sure that you have all of those areas covered, or at least the ones for the people that you're working with, the demographic. And so there's certain, depending on ethnic groups or different things that you're working on, they'll each have different needs. And so again, that's just another way that you will be able to make sure that you have every single thing covered as you need it. And so, the cardiovascular system. So that's just with the heart. I find that is probably one of the most common things. So you definitely have to have remedies for that. And as a clinical herbalist, you have to have, again, for those special categories of people, like I said, pregnant women or the child or the elderly, but you also have to have herbs that have very little contraindications so that you're not having side effects when people are using medication. When you're working as a clinical herbalist, you will find that you're working with a lot more people, and the remedies you have to know about the certain medications or underlying conditions that they have. So as I said, it gets much more complex. And you as a herbalist, a lot of times people don't realize it's not just having information about different herbs. You have to also have that information about the body, understanding, the biology, the anatomy, things like that. You also have to have knowledge about the different medications that the people that you may be working with may be on, and knowing how to formulate properly and all those different things. So making sure you have that, definitely. I find that that's like one of the number one things, and actually number one cause of death. So very important that you have that cardiovascular system covered. Also, kidneys. A lot of times people are having troubles with their kidneys, and they may not even realize that it's a problem with the kidneys, but from looking at the different things that are going on, then that may be a remedy that's also very important. Diabetes is another one, so making sure you have the pancreas covered is really important. Women's reproductive health, again, another, even men's reproductive health. And you can choose as a herbalist, what your specialty is if you want to work with certain groups of people, and then the need will be smaller. But you want to make sure that you have that. I find that most of the things that people are talking about will probably be these. Maybe also, every now and then, maybe thyroid or the adrenals or different things like that. But I would say those are probably the ones that you want to cover in for the digestive health. Thank you, Halal Family Homestead, for joining. All right, so I think I pretty much talked about everything that I want to talk about, and I did it pretty quickly. So at this point, if you guys have any questions for me about how many herbs you would need at any of these stages, or any more questions about the family herbalist, the community herbalist, the clinical herbalist, anything like that, now will be the time to ask them. And while I'm waiting for your questions, I want to just share this. So I talked about like the freebies that I have. Right now I have 3, and you can check that out just on my website. It's Yas Apothecary, and you can just go to freebies and you'll be able to see that. But I wanted to show the classes that I have, because I have classes in this month, June and July, and then I'm going to actually stop doing classes for the rest of the year. So I wanted to make sure that you guys know, if you wanted to attend a live class on my platform, that you can do so. I have next week, I have my heart medicine is health, healing, and hope. So it's all about the cardiovascular system and the different elements that, goes along with the heart. So things like stroke or hypertension, high blood pressure, whatever term you want to use, things like that. But also about dealing with grief and stress. So how to actually incorporate food and herbs and, lifestyle, so you can have a holistic approach to the heart. So that's the first one. I also have an herbal energetics masterclass, and that's going to be the following week. So I actually have like a stacked kind of lineup of classes. And that one is going to be really good. It's actually an hour and a half. It really is a masterclass. So if you ever had a question about herbal energetics and you don't understand it, that'll be a class that you want to sit in on. And I didn't mention, and I should mention, that these classes have herbs as well, because I always feel like it's good to have information, but you have to be able to apply it. And so I do give herbs. So I have different care packages with the different classes. And so with the herbal energetics one, I have a secret package, and it's going to have herbs that are really unique, probably ones that you never heard of and surely never tasted. And we'll be using that also to experience energetics as well. So I have that one. That's for this month. And then in July, I have a colon clean out. It's detoxifying the system safely. A lot of times people think about detox is all about like parasites and laxatives. And so it's so much more than that. And so that's what we're going to be breaking down. I really like breaking down a certain system so you can really understand the different herbs. So like if you are building your apothecary as a clinical herbalist, understanding what's going on in the body and understanding the different herbs that you can use and how to apply them. And then I have one on the brain. So the nervous system, it's called Build, Balance, Boost. And like I talked about, these 4 classes that I just talked about all have different herbs and packages with them. The only thing about the heart class is I'm going to leave it open, but you won't be able to get the care package other than by today, because I will have to get it out on Monday so I can get to you by the class. And I'm not ready to really talk about this class yet, but all of that is on my website. So on yasapothecary.com/classes. All right. So I don't think that I didn't have any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and go and enjoy my Sunday. I have a lot of work to do in the garden, but thank you all for watching. If you have a question or comment, go ahead and leave it in the comments. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.